Long ago, in a quiet village, there was a river that flowed gently through the trees. People loved the river and called it Mother Stream because it gave them water and fish, but the river had a secret, something it had never told anyone. Lena was a curious girl who loved to sit by the river. She liked to talk to the water and listen to the soft splashes and waves. One day, she saw something shiny near the riverbank and walked closer. It was a small stone that glowed blue in the sunlight. When she touched it, the river began to hum, like it was singing. Lena looked around, but no one else was there. Suddenly, she heard a soft voice in the wind. "Thank you for finding my heart," the voice said gently. Lena's eyes grew wide. "Who's there?" she whispered. "I am the spirit of the river," said the voice. "I lost my heart many years ago during a great storm. The stone you found is my heart, and now I can speak again." Lena was amazed. She held the stone close and smiled. The river shimmered, and its waters became clearer than ever. Flowers bloomed along the bank, and birds sang sweet songs. From that day, Lena visited the river every morning. She told it stories, and the river shared its own tales. It spoke of ancient trees, gentle rain, and secret caves below. One day, Lena asked, "Why did you hide your heart?" The river replied, "To protect it from those who would harm me. Only a kind soul like you could find it." Lena promised to keep the river's secret safe. She told no one about the talking river or the glowing stone. But the village noticed the river was more beautiful than ever. Years passed, and Lena grew into a wise woman. Children gathered around her to hear stories of the river. She never told them the full truth, but she always smiled. The river flowed on, calm and strong, holding its secret close. It whispered to the wind, sang to the trees, and laughed with the rain. And sometimes, just sometimes, a curious child would hear it speak. One summer evening, Lena walked by the river with a basket of apples. She stopped to rest under a willow tree and listened to the soft water sounds. The river greeted her with a happy murmur. "Hello, my dear friend," it said, "I brought you apples." Lena smiled. The river giggled. "Thank you. I love when you visit me." Lena tossed a few apples into the water. They floated gently away. The river's voice became calm. "I want to show you something." Suddenly, the water sparkled and formed a glowing path. Lena followed the path with her eyes wide open. She stepped carefully into the water. It was warm and clear. As she walked, she saw tiny fish dancing around her feet. The river guided her to a place she had never seen before. There, under a large rock, was a hidden cave. The entrance was covered with vines and flowers. "This is my heart's home," said the river softly. Lena moved the vines aside and stepped into the cave. Inside, the walls glowed with blue and green light. Crystals hung from the ceiling like stars. "This is beautiful," Lena whispered. The river replied, "Only the kind and brave can see this place. It is my secret garden, full of peace and dreams." Lena saw drawings on the cave walls, pictures of people and animals. "These are the stories I have seen over the years," the river said. "I remember everything. I never forget." There was a picture of a young girl with long hair, Lena herself. She gasped. "That's me," she said with wonder. The river chuckled. "Yes. You are part of my story now." Lena stayed in the cave for a while, feeling calm and happy. She knew she had found something magical. The river had trusted her with its deepest secret. When she came out, the stars were shining in the sky. She walked home slowly, thinking about the secret garden. She didn't tell anyone, not even her closest friends. The next day, Lena went back with a small notebook. She sat by the river and began to draw and write. She wanted to remember every detail of the cave. Every morning, she added more drawings and stories. The river told her about the time it helped lost animals. It also spoke of travelers who once followed its flow. One day, the river said, "I need your help, Lena. There's a storm coming, and the village may flood." Lena stood up quickly. Tell me what to do. Go warn the people, the river said. Tell them to move to the hills for safety. Lena nodded and ran toward the village. At first, no one believed her. But when the sky turned dark, they saw the truth. The wind howled, and rain began to fall hard. Because of Lena's warning, everyone moved in time. The village was safe, and no one was hurt. The river swelled, but it did not destroy anything. After the storm, the river looked calm and bright. You saved them, it said to Lena. No, she replied, we saved them together. The villagers thanked Lena for her bravery. She smiled but didn't speak of the river's secret. That secret stayed safe in her heart. After the storm, the village slowly returned to normal. People cleaned their homes and helped each other. Lena spent her days near the river, keeping it company. One morning, she found a small bird with a hurt wing. She picked it up gently and brought it to the river. The river made a soft sound and touched the bird with its water. The bird chirped and flapped its wings. In a few seconds, it flew into the sky, singing a happy song. Lena smiled. You healed it, she said softly. I help all who show kindness, said the river. My power is not just in water but in love and care. Lena felt proud to be the river's friend. Later that week, children followed Lena to the riverbank. Tell us a story, they begged, sitting in a circle. Lena nodded and began to speak. She told them stories of talking trees and glowing fish. She spoke of brave children and secret paths. The children listened with wide eyes and happy hearts. One little boy asked, are these stories real? Lena smiled gently and said, maybe they are. Sometimes, the truth hides in the shape of a story. As time passed, Lena grew older. Her hair turned silver, but her heart stayed young. She still walked by the river every day. One autumn morning, the river called to her again. Lena, it said, there is something I want to give you. She sat by the water, waiting to hear more. You have given me love, care, and silence, the river said. You have protected my secret all these years. Now, it is your turn to carry the magic. The glowing blue stone rose from the water and floated to her hand. Lena held it carefully, feeling its warmth. It glowed brighter than ever before. You are now my voice when I cannot speak, the river said. When I am still, you will share my stories. Lena nodded, tears in her eyes. That evening, she placed the stone inside a small wooden box. She kept it on a shelf beside her bed. Every night, it gave off a soft, peaceful light. Seasons changed, and the village grew. New families came, and old ones stayed. But everyone knew of the kind woman who loved the river. When Lena passed away many years later, the whole village wept. Children placed flowers by the riverbank. Birds sang songs that filled the quiet air. The river did not speak for many days. Its waters flowed gently, like soft tears. But one night, it began to sing again. A little girl named May sat by the water's edge. She heard the soft song and looked around. Then, she saw something shining in the grass. It was Lena's wooden box, half buried in the earth. May opened it and found the glowing blue stone. As soon as she touched it, the river whispered her name. Hello, May, said the gentle voice. I've been waiting for you. May gasped. Who are you? I am the river, the voice replied. You have a kind heart, just like Lena. And I have many more secrets to share. May smiled and listened carefully. The river began to tell her its stories, stories of stars, storms, and sparkling caves. And so, a new friendship began. The river had found another gentle soul. Its secret was safe once again. May was only 8 years old, but she was very curious. She loved nature, animals, and quiet places. After finding the glowing stone, she visited the river every day. She brought paper and crayons to draw what she saw. Sometimes, she drew fish or birds. Other times, she drew the cave Lena once found. The river watched her with joy and care. "You are like Lena in many ways," the river told her. She listened, she asked questions, and she cared deeply. May looked up and smiled. "I want to learn everything." The river taught her how to read signs in nature. "How do trees speak?" May asked one morning. "They speak through their leaves, through their silence," the river said. May listened to the wind and watched the branches move. She saw a bird build a nest and a fox cross the path. She learned how all things were connected by the river's song. One afternoon, May asked, "Did you ever feel lonely?" The river replied, "Before Lena, I was quiet for a long time. People forgot to listen. But not you." May placed her hand in the cool water. "I will always listen," she promised. The river sparkled, happy and bright. Time passed, and May began to grow older. She still visited the river, even on cold winter days. She wore a warm scarf and carried a notebook in her pocket. She wrote stories, some real, some magical. She wrote about talking owls, glowing rocks, and brave hearts. And always, the river was part of the tale. May's parents didn't know the river could speak. They only saw how happy she was near it. "She's always smiling when she comes back," her mother said. One day, May found an injured deer in the forest. Its leg was bleeding, and it could not walk. She ran to the river, calling for help. The river listened and whispered, "Bring the deer closer." With great care, May guided the deer to the water's edge. The river touched the leg gently with a soft stream. Little by little, the deer stood up again. It looked at May with kind eyes, then walked away. "You helped again," May said. "You always do." "I help those who help others," said the river. "My magic lives in kindness." May smiled. "That's the best kind of magic." Years passed, and May became a young woman. She studied nature and dreams. She read old books and wrote new ones. But she never forgot the river. One spring morning, she returned to the secret cave. It looked just as Lena had described it. The crystals still glowed, and the drawings danced in light. She added her own drawing to the wall. It showed a girl with a fox, a deer, and a river. She signed it with her name, May. The river hummed gently. "Now, your story lives here too," it said. "I will remember you forever." May opened her old wooden box and held the blue stone. It pulsed warmly in her hand, like a heartbeat. It made her feel calm, strong, and loved. That night, May sat with her grandmother, who was very old. "Tell me a story," her grandmother asked with a weak smile. May nodded and began to speak. She told her the story of Lena, the glowing stone, and the secret river. Her grandmother listened with tears in her eyes. "That's a beautiful story," she whispered. "Is it true?" May gently kissed her grandmother's forehead. "It is true," she said. "And you were part of it too. You taught me to love nature and listen with my heart." After her grandmother passed away, May planted a tree near the river. It was a small willow, soft and strong. The river touched its roots, and it grew quickly. "That tree will carry your grandmother's spirit," the river said. "She will always be near." May placed a small stone under it, the blue stone. "Are you sure?" the river asked. May nodded. "It's time for a new story to begin. I've had my turn. Now, another heart must find it." And so, the blue stone rested beneath the willow tree. The river flowed softly, waiting for the next kind soul. It never rushed. It always knew when the right heart would come. Many years later, a boy named Eli moved to the village. He was quiet, shy, and often sat alone near the river. One day, he saw the willow tree and sat under its shade. He felt peace there, like someone was watching kindly. He dug his fingers into the earth and found something hard. It was a box, old, wooden, and glowing faintly. Eli opened it slowly and found the stone. It lit up in his hand, and a voice whispered, "Hello." His eyes grew wide. "Who said that?" "I am the river," said the voice gently. I've waited for you, Eli. The boy smiled, though he didn't fully understand. But why me? He asked. Because you listen with your heart. The river said. And every story needs a new beginning. Eli didn't tell anyone about the stone or the voice. He felt that the river had spoken only to him. It was a special moment, and he wanted to keep it safe. Each day after school, he returned to the willow tree. He sat by the water and listened to the sounds. Sometimes, he heard soft humming like a song. The river began to tell him little stories. It spoke of foxes that danced under moonlight. It whispered about a turtle that once followed the stars. Eli started to write these stories in a small notebook. He carried it. He carried it everywhere and never showed it to anyone. The pages filled with drawings, poems, and river songs. The river said, "You are a dreamer, like Lena and May. You hear the quiet voices most people ignore." Eli asked, "Will I ever see the cave too?" The river was silent for a moment, then said, "One day. When you are ready, the path will open for you. Until then, keep learning and keep listening." Eli began to see the world differently. He noticed tiny things, a caterpillar's crawl, a leaf's fall, a snail's trail. He felt the rhythm of life in every part of nature. Sometimes, he brought food for the animals near the water. Squirrels, birds, and even a shy fox came to eat. The river smiled in ripples and sparkles. One winter day, a heavy snow covered the village. The river slowed down, almost still. Eli came with a blanket and sat by the tree. He spoke to the river through the quiet snow. "I hope you're not too cold," he whispered. The river gently replied, "Your warmth keeps me flowing." That night, Eli had a dream. He saw Lena, May, and the glowing cave. They waved at him and smiled kindly. When he woke up, he felt something inside him change. He was ready for something new, something magical. The river knew it too. "Eli," the river said the next day, "follow the path." The water parted slightly, and the glowing path returned. He took a deep breath and stepped into the stream. The fish swam around his feet, guiding him. The trees leaned closer, as if watching with joy. He found the same vines and flowers hiding the cave. He gently pushed the vines aside and stepped in. It was more beautiful than he imagined. The walls glowed softly, and the crystals hummed. He walked deeper and found the wall of drawings. There was Lena, May, the deer, the fox, and now, him. A new picture was already there, a boy holding a glowing stone. Eli touched the picture, and it felt warm. He felt like he was part of something bigger now. Something old, kind, and full of light. The river spoke again, "You are now a keeper of stories." Eli nodded slowly. "I will take care of them. I will share them with the world." When he left the cave, snow began to fall again. He looked back once, then walked back to the village. His heart was full, and his steps were light. He began to share gentle stories with the younger children. He told them about rivers, kindness, and hidden magic. The children loved listening and begged for more. One girl asked, "Where do these stories come from?" Eli smiled. "They come from a very old friend. And maybe one day, the river will speak to you too." Years passed, and the village grew again. Eli became a writer and teacher. He taught children to listen, to wonder, and to care. The willow tree became a place where people gathered. They sat in its shade and shared food, songs, and laughter. The river flowed beside them, always watching, always listening. One day, a little girl named Tia sat by the river alone. She was quiet and sad, holding a torn drawing. Eli saw her and sat beside her. "Would you like to hear a story?" he asked. She nodded slowly, wiping her eyes. He began a tale about a river that healed broken things. As he spoke, the river sparkled gently. Tia looked up. Surprised. Did the river just smile? Eli laughed. Yes. It does that when it's happy. Tia came back the next day with a new drawing. It showed a river, a tree, and a smiling boy. Eli placed the drawing inside his old notebook. The river whispered, "Another kind heart has arrived." "Yes," Eli replied. The story goes on. And deep inside the cave, a new picture appeared. Tia visited the river every day after school. She talked to it softly, like a friend. She showed it her drawings and told it her dreams. The river listened kindly. It remembered the voices of children like her, children who saw magic in silence and light in small things. One spring afternoon, Tia brought her little brother, Sam. He was only 5 and didn't speak much. But when he touched the water, he smiled. The river whispered to him too, in its gentle way. Sam laughed and pointed at a bird in the sky. Tia knew then that the river had welcomed him. Eli watched the two children from under the willow tree. He felt the same peace he had known as a boy. He closed his eyes and thanked the river in his heart. That evening, he opened his notebook and began to write. He wrote about Tia, Sam, and the laughter by the water. He knew the river's story would never truly end. In the years that followed, more children came. They brought flowers, painted rocks, and songs. The river glowed softly with each kind gesture. One girl planted a row of bright sunflowers nearby. Another boy built a tiny wooden bridge across the stream. The river thanked them in ripples and gentle waves. Eli grew older, just as Lena and May had. He walked slower, but his eyes were still full of light. Every child in the village knew him as the story man. "Tell us about the cave." They would shout. Eli would smile and sit under the willow tree. "All right," he'd say. "But only if you promise to listen." The cave became a legend in the village. Some believed it was real, some said it was a dream. But those who truly listened knew the truth. One chilly morning, Eli sat by the river alone. He held the blue stone in his hand once more. It glowed softly, as if saying goodbye. The river whispered, "You have done well, dear friend. You gave the stories to others. You passed on the light." Eli closed his eyes. "Thank you, for everything." That night, the wind was quiet, and the stars were bright. Eli passed away peacefully in his sleep. The whole village felt the loss, like a hush in the air. The next day, Tia and Sam stood by the willow tree. They placed flowers and drawings at its roots. Children lit little lanterns and let them float on the water. The river held them gently, like precious memories. It whispered a promise, "I will never forget." And far away, deep in the cave, a new picture appeared. It showed Eli with a book in his hand and the river beside him. The walls shimmered with soft light. The story of Eli had become part of the river forever. Now, Tia visits the cave sometimes, just like Eli once did. She tells the river her dreams and writes them down. Her notebook grows thicker with every visit. One day, she finds a quiet boy sitting under the tree. He is drawing the river, just like she used to. She smiles and sits beside him. "Do you want to hear a story?" she asks. The boy nods. "Yes, please." So Tia begins, and the river listens once more. The boy's name was Aaron, and he had just moved to the village. His parents were busy with work and often tired. So Aaron spent most of his time by himself. He liked drawing birds and animals with soft colors. One day, he followed a butterfly and found the river. It flowed quietly, as if waiting for him. Aaron sat under the willow tree and opened his sketchbook. He drew the river, the tree, and the butterfly. For the first time in days, he felt calm. Tia watched from a distance. She smiled, remembering how her own journey began. She walked over and sat beside him. "Did the butterfly lead you here?" she asked kindly. Aaron nodded. "Yes. And now I feel safe." Tia said, "That's because this river is special." The river, sensing a new soul, whispered gently. Aaron tilted his head. "Did you hear that?" Tia smiled. "You're listening with your heart now." That evening, Aaron couldn't stop thinking about the river. At dinner, he asked his parents if they believed in magic. They looked surprised, but his mother said, "I think so." The next morning, Aaron brought a gift to the river. It was a small paper boat with stars drawn on it. He placed it in the water and whispered, "Thank you." The boat floated gently, turning slowly with the current. The river shimmered for a second and whispered again. Aaron smiled. "You're welcome," he said aloud. From that day on, he visited every morning. He read stories out loud and shared his drawings. The river listened, always kind and always near. One afternoon, Aaron saw something strange. A large stone near the river glowed softly. He stepped closer and heard a faint humming sound. He touched the stone, and a tiny spark lit up. A small hole opened in the ground near the tree. Inside it was a folded note, old but still clear. It read, "To the one who listens, the river trusts you. Follow the light, and you'll find your true story." Aaron's hands shook as he held the paper. Tia arrived just then and saw the note. She gasped. "I've never seen this before." Aaron whispered, "I think it was meant for now." That evening, they both returned to the river. The stars were out, and the moon was bright. The river whispered a song neither had heard before. A soft path opened between the trees. It was covered in silver leaves and glowing moss. Tia took Aaron's hand, and they walked together. At the end of the path stood a large arch of vines. Beyond it was a hidden glade with a small pond. The air felt warm and full of stories. The river's voice echoed around them gently. "This place is for those who care and share. Each of you is part of my secret." Tia found a stone shaped like a heart and gave it to Aaron. "This is yours now," she said. "Keep it close." Aaron nodded. "I will always protect this place." A crystal near the pond began to glow softly. New images appeared, Aaron, Tia, and the glowing arch. The river had added a new page to its story. They sat by the pond until the moon was high. Tia leaned back and looked at the stars. "Do you think the river can see the sky?" Aaron smiled. "I think the river is like the sky. It holds stories, wishes, and light." Tia agreed. "It holds hearts too." The next day, Aaron woke up before the sun. He felt a pull in his chest, gentle but strong. He knew the river wanted to show him more. He packed his sketchbook, a bottle of water, and an apple. Then he quietly left his house and walked toward the river. The sky was still dark, but the stars lit his path. When he reached the willow tree, the river shimmered. Tiny lights floated above the water like fireflies. They danced in the air and led him downstream. He followed them slowly, careful not to step on roots. The river flowed beside him, calm and glowing. He felt like he was walking through a dream. After a while, he reached a place he had never seen. There was a circle of stones in the middle of a field. In the center, wildflowers bloomed in every color. The river's voice was soft but clear. "This is the circle of wishes," it said. Many years ago, children came here to dream. Aaron stepped into the circle and sat down. He closed his eyes and made a wish. "I wish to protect stories. I wish to keep them alive." Suddenly, a soft wind passed over the grass. The flowers leaned toward him, and one bloomed brighter. He picked it carefully and held it to his heart. He returned to the willow tree just as the sun rose. Tia was there, holding her own notebook. They exchanged smiles and sat together in silence. Aaron showed her the glowing flower. Tia gasped, then reached into her bag. She pulled out a dried petal that looked the same. "This petal came to me when I was small," she said. "I never knew where it came from." "Now we know," Aaron replied. "It's from the circle." That weekend, they told the village children about the circle. They walked together in a line through the fields. When they reached the stones, the children stood in awe. Each child made a quiet wish. Some wished for kindness, some for courage, some for joy. The flowers listened and responded in bloom and color. The river flowed gently nearby, proud and peaceful. It whispered, "This is how the story grows." Not in one heart, but in many. Back in the village, something wonderful began to happen. Children painted the walls with rivers and stars. Elders told stories they hadn't spoken in years. A new space was built beside the willow tree. It was called the Listening Garden. There, anyone could read, write, or just be quiet. Benches made from old wood circled the garden. The center held a small fountain shaped like a river stone. It bubbled gently, always flowing, never loud. Aaron and Tia became guides for all new visitors. They told tales of the hidden cave and the glowing arch. They encouraged children to listen and draw their dreams. One evening, a boy named Leo arrived in the village. He didn't speak much, and his eyes looked tired. He had come from a busy city far away. Aaron sat with him under the tree. He handed Leo a pencil and some paper. "Draw what you feel," he said softly. Leo began to sketch slowly, lines, waves, and stars. When he finished, he showed it to Aaron. "The picture looked like the river at night. You can hear it too," Aaron said with a smile. Leo nodded. "It makes me feel safe." "You belong here," said Tia, who had joined them. Later that week, Leo found something near the stream. It was a smooth black stone with golden swirls. He placed it in the garden's fountain. The water sparkled when it touched the stone. A soft light glowed for a moment and faded. The river had welcomed another dreamer. From that day on, Leo smiled more. He helped plant new trees and painted river animals. The village felt warmer with every story shared. One day, a great rain came. The river rose high, and people grew worried. But the willow tree stood strong, and so did the garden. When the rain stopped, the river had changed. It had carved a new path beside the tree. A small island had formed, just big enough to stand on. Aaron and Tia built a tiny wooden bridge. They named the island Whisper's End. It became a quiet place for those who needed peace. Visitors began to leave letters on the island. Letters to lost friends, dreams, or silent hopes. The river took each one gently and carried it on. One morning, an old traveler arrived at the village. She wore a long green cloak and carried a flute. Her eyes were bright, though her hair was white. She sat by the river without speaking a word. Then she played her flute, and the notes floated softly. The river responded with ripples and shining light. Children gathered, listening to the music and the water. The traveler smiled and said, "This place is well cared for." Tia asked gently, "Do you know the river too?" The woman nodded slowly. "Long ago, I followed its voice. I was a child like you, full of dreams and drawings. But I left before I could finish listening." Aaron offered her a seat by the willow tree. He handed her a warm drink and his sketchbook. The woman turned its pages with wonder and care. That evening, the traveler told stories no one had heard. She spoke of an ancient forest beyond the hills. She described glowing creatures and trees that sang. The children were amazed, their eyes wide with joy. Leo asked, "Is that part of the river's story too?" The traveler nodded. "Everything that flows connects." The next day, she showed them a hidden trail. It was behind a rock wall, covered in ivy and moss. Few had ever noticed it before. Together, they walked the winding path in silence. It led to a quiet glen where water fell from a cliff. The air smelled of mint and magic. At the base of the waterfall stood a pool of glass. The water was so clear, it showed the sky perfectly. Floating in it were glowing leaves from long ago. The traveler turned to them and said, "This place remembers stories not yet told. Whoever listens here will hear their future." Aaron stepped forward, knelt, and listened carefully. He heard laughter, music, and his own voice reading aloud. He looked up. "I think I'll be a storyteller forever." Tia listened too, and her eyes filled with wonder. She saw herself painting a mural on a mountain. A mural of rivers, children, stars, and light. Leo listened last. His lips curled into a smile. He saw himself planting trees in places that had none. He whispered, I want to help the world grow. The traveler gave each of them a small shell. Keep this near your heart, she said. It will guide you. Then, like the wind, she disappeared into the trees. They returned to the village changed, quiet and thoughtful. They built a new bench near the waterfall path. It held a plaque that said, "For those who listen deeply." As seasons passed, the village became a place of peace. Travelers came from far away just to visit the river. They sat under the willow, walked Whisper's End, and dreamed. The river, ever watchful, whispered to each visitor. Some stayed for a while, others left with glowing hearts. But every person carried a piece of the magic with them. Aaron grew tall and kind, known as the guardian of tales. Tia painted the world with light and color. Leo traveled, planting gardens where hope was needed, and still, the river flowed, never tired, never still. It remembered every voice, every wish, every step. Its song echoed through the trees and into the stars. One evening, long after sunset, a new child arrived. She stood by the willow, holding a tiny journal. She looked into the water and whispered, "I'm ready." The river listened, smiled, and whispered back gently, "Come closer, little dreamer. Your story begins now." The stars remember. The trees remember. So do I, and with the light of the moon, the river spoke the magical words, "In every drop, a dream. In every dream, a door. In every heart, a light forevermore."